podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead Podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. You are listening to Good Brothers. Please take the best part for yourself. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee, what's happening?
What's happening, man? It's today. It's right now. And I figure, so we're gonna jump in with I'm just gonna come right out the gate, you know what I'm saying, throwing stones. It is clear for some people that your mans could have rode through the Capitol insurrection with a, whatever slogan would be tied to them people wilding out and attacking, federal property and assaulting police officers and destroying scaffolding and security infrastructure. He could have ran through there with a MAGA hat and you guys are doing great, you know what I'm saying, banner on his back, and they still wouldn't have convicted him. They said, he was just, he was just rallying. I mean, please don't really make us convict him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is basically their energy. Like, look, we really don't want to do this, even though, we talk tough talk around, law enforcement and safety and blah, blah, blah. When it gets down to the brass tacks of it, all of that only really matters if we don't need you for our purposes and goals. And I don't know. I mean, low key, high key, all the keys. You know what I'm saying? Folks of that variety, they should be embarrassed. They won't be because it's not convenient for them, but they should be. Like, they should look at this and go, "Damn, man, I'd be out here talking this law and order stuff, and like folks literally stormed a federal property and like destroyed stuff and killed a police officer at his job." Like, while he was being a police officer, not like a theoretical police officer, not like a person they found out later was a police officer, not like we accidentally did something and a police officer died. They assaulted a police officer, and then, as was revealed, which was not revealed, as much, I thought, in earlier coverage, like mad other police officers got like hit with metal rods, and banisters and boards and pieces of shit. They took them to war. Yeah, they took them to war. Like. On one hand, knowing. So I'm gonna stop there so you can share your first thought. Yeah,
I mean, I think to your point. So I guess your point is clear that essentially he could have done more, and they still would have acquitted him. But I think that speaks to that those Republicans are in absolute fear of the people in their party. Like, they are in fear of the Republican Party members, their base. Now, I think there's two ways to have a conversation about you should honor and respect your base. But if your base is insane, I think you have another question, right? So, so what we're doing is in the political space being like, well, they had to do it because of the base. But we're not asking the question, like, why does the base believe flat out lies? And what is your responsibility as a leader? Because you're one of only 50 senators in the country.
Right.
What is your responsibility to have your citizens that you represent not full out buy into lies, right? And full out buy into stuff to think that it wasn't worth him being impeached.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like wow, y'all really are controlled by this base to the point where you won't even make rational decisions, and you come up with legal theories that are shoddy at best of why you can't do it. You know what I mean? So yeah, for me, it's just like, okay, and we talked about it at length, but I think it really bears mentioning. They have entire television shows and entire platforms dedicated to telling people shit that isn't true.
Yeah.
Because we're not on them. Because we're not on them, we don't think that's as big as it is, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we got Dr. Umar and shit. Like imagine if Dr. Umar had like a platform by which millions of people literally took everything he said and was like, "Yo, it's a go."
Like, yo, you can't get elected if Umar ain't down with you.
Exactly. Right.
She want her cookies crushed.
Oh man, did you watch that cookies crushed?
Yeah, that was hilarious. I didn't even know where that came from. I just like, word up, Dr. Umar. I mean, you sort of ain't lying, you know what I mean? But we you know, I don't want to really, you know what I mean? Like, that's a personal thing. That's like some deeper levels of intimacies and whatnot of people's dynamics, you know what I'm saying? But it's hilarious that is what you got on the internet and decided to say. Now imagine if he was that same individual, and there ain't no slight on Dr. Umar, at least not for that necessarily. But if Umar and whatever Umar had to say meant that like literally you might not win your Senate position, which is one of the hardest things to win in American politics. And that is like, yo, we can't, we got to bring Umar to the conferences, and we got to ask Umar. But I ain't saying it would be a bad thing. It would definitely be interesting if Umar had that kind of pull. But it would be also like, yo, like,
rational people would say, hold on, dog, like, what's up? Like, this ain't no bash Umar, because I honestly think the people that he's listening to they're like worse than him. I think he's just funny at this point. He's more like funny. Like you take the time to get on the internet and be sweating and shit, and then talk about some of the cookies. And you know what I'm saying, holding knives up and shit. Like, but I mean, going back to it, like, they have entire platforms that this information is told to them over and over and over 24/7.
Right.
Like, that is not an accident, and that is dangerous. Right. And as much as, and I'm going to say this from my perspective, as much as Donald Trump is guilty morally and practically, as Mitch McConnell said, he is morally and practically responsible for it. The platforms that tell these people lies that convince them to come January 6th and even think about doing it is equally as responsible, if not more. Right? Because they were already primed to do whatever. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't like Donald Trump convinced them.
Right.
Again, these are the same folks who believe that Barack Obama is not from America.
Right, and think that people are hiding children in the bottom of pizza restaurants.
And bottom of pizza restaurants, like that. Hillary Clinton's family is hiding children in the bottom of pizza restaurants. So, like, yeah. So for me, I guess the impeachment, that idea to then scared senators to then taking votes that are irresponsible in the annals of history, all lend itself to the very tenuous conditions of American civil society. And I would say, I think the fact that President Biden and Vice President Harris won, and people might get some checks in the next couple of weeks, people might go back to being comfortable about stuff because they feel like it's returned to normalcy.
Right.
But like, there's nothing normal here. Even if normal shit is happening, it ain't a normal situation.
Yeah, and it's a couple. One thing that I pulled out, the Cassidy, I think it's his name, from North Carolina, who was just like, look, I looked at the stuff and I said he was wrong, so I voted that way. Like, end of the day, like he didn't even vote for the impeachment. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he was a surprise. Like, yo, I looked at the data and I said, yo, this we can't be about no one person. Like this ain't cool. Like the idea, it's as if the idea that you could again come to a conclusion based on facts and not just that all facts that don't fit with your viewpoint are to be reframed as not facts. You know what I'm saying? Which is
Right.
what where we're at right now. You know what I mean? Where we've been for a minute, but definitely where we're at right now. Where it's like, oh, I don't really like, please don't show me the evidence. I guess as I shared his article with some economists speaking on the theory of trickle down economics. And for all my conservative brothers and sisters, here's where we derivate from you in terms of like when you do the like, oh, you can't even have a difference in perspective. We can have a difference in perspective about the efficacy of trickle down economic theory, because ultimately, like it doesn't, although we could get into how the philosophy could have maybe serious negative outcomes for people, but ultimately, you tried to convince 9-year-old me that by giving more people, letting rich people keep more of their money, somehow they would magically do stuff with it that eventually it would still help me. And I laughed. I said, word, for real, rich people, they're gonna, because we didn't tax them, they're gonna magically put that money out. No, nobody's gonna do that. They're gonna invest the money and make more money. There's no incentive we're going to invest and they're going to start more businesses. Why? Why would they start more businesses that might lose all that money? If you had a whole lot of money to get taxed, and then I told you, hey, guess what? We got this whole system, this economic theory that says we're not going to take your money. We're just going to let you like invest it more or something. You know what I'm saying? And do all kinds of complicated stock options and Twitch and stuff and invest, do all these things to hopefully where your money will make more money, but you will not actually have to do anything nor do much, additional work. Oh yeah, sign me up if I'm already wealthy. Like,
Right.
It's like I'm glad that some diligent economists have taken time to research it and go, yeah, this clearly is not actually causing economic expansion or benefit people at the bottom of the economic ladder. You know what I'm saying? But 9-year-old Justice was like, yeah, that don't sound like that's gonna help nobody but the people that already got money. But that's cool, Reaganomics and everybody else that's down with that movement. Right. So we can derivate on whether that's good or not good. Because ultimately, I still have to live in, the other conditions of life, which may be challenging, are not actively going, yeah, actually, it's totally cool if you bust his head open if he disagrees with you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or saying, like I said, they are the people who are Democrats are kidnapping children and sucking their blood. Like you have people that y'all want to vote for them, right? And they think this, and you don't openly tell them, yo, that's not true. There are no lizard people. Also, you know what I'm saying, the pyramids were totally built by the Egyptians. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you could tell respect your people enough to say, like, listen, I understand your passion and love for the country, but a line was crossed.
Right.
This was too, like, if Nancy Pelosi had been in her office, someone would have hurt her.
Oh, actual fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, let's keep it 100. If she was in her office, someone would have hurt her. If you name it, Democratic senator, and probably some other ones, they might be like, well, we don't know what type of senator they is, so let's just beat them up. Like, they would have been hurt. You know what I'm saying? And to do this whole song and dance where we act like, well, it could have went other ways, or it wasn't as bad as it looked. Like it's just disrespectful, and it's like, at some point, what I like to say, when someone is clearly showing you they just don't respect you, you just go, okay, thank you. Now I know that you don't respect me, so let me stop having this thing where I act like we're having a respectful discussion, because we're not.
Yeah, because it's not, and so I just think it's with the impeachment, it's just a broader challenge to really look at the core of the issue. I think people can get caught up in the senators voting and Trump being Trump, but it's really about, like, you have millions of people who think things that just fundamentally aren't true, and you can't use facts to convince them otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? And so it's not like, well, you shut down all the ways that they would still think these things. They're still out there, right? And they will continue to, and they'll go out of sight. I mean, actually, where I kind of agree with some conservatives, like, you think taking them off of Twitter or shutting down some of these platforms will make them not communicate?
All right, they're going to keep talking.
They're going to keep talking. They're just going to do it in places where it's going to be out of sight, right? And so, obviously it was crazy. You knew that they wasn't going to impeach him, but then seeing that they weren't going to impeach him, and then this, like I said, the specious legal argument that you can't impeach him because he's not in office, where it's like, no, you can impeach him and just say you impeach him for crimes he committed while he was in office.
Right. That's like saying I can't charge you with a crime in Ohio because he's in Pennsylvania now. He's in Pennsylvania. He ain't even
you can't charge me with nothing that happened in the house once I leave the house. I ain't inside no more. Can't ask me about nothing in the house.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm saying I'm down the block.
You know that by the time you was 12, that didn't work.
Right. I'm at the package store. You know what I'm saying? You can't
like I'm not in school, but I did something in school, so you can't get me until you can't really blame me for it because I'm not in school no more. Like, what are you talking about? They'll lock your ass up. So, the argument was specious. And I think Biden kind of intelligently, at least from a big P political perspective, is like, listen, man, I'm going to just stay low and keep firing here because there's nothing I can really win on it, right? I think people always want a president to take the moral high ground since we have such a low bar. But generally speaking, I think it was smart for him just to say, listen, man, I'm over here trying to get you y'all checks. I don't have time to talk about that.
Right. And I'm going to let y'all handle that. And I'm going to get to work on this first 100 days stuff. And, make sure I got something to show for this time frame. I mean, I think on the positive side, now that it's a wrap, maybe, folks can, while the Democrats have, the majority in these different things, man, they need to bang out as much as they can bang out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, that's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? We know y'all get down. Let's move on to, you know what I'm saying, this other work and not be sucked into an ongoing conversation about, well, should they have done the impeachment? Should they not have done the impeachment? What did they do about the impeachment? You know what I'm saying?
But, Democrats love to hand wring and think about things that happened 10 years ago over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm saying, Al Franken should have never resigned. Yeah, I know, but, he did. So
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, there'll be a conversation. Like, should have Al Franken resigned? Like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been acting like he should have resigned when it happened. Then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But now, years later, you want to look back on it and be like, oh man.
I mean, we thought we was doing the right thing by making it less, but maybe you should have stuck to your. Should have said what he did was, whatever he did was not cool, and he should face whatever ethics sanctions.
That's
what I'm saying, are required. But ultimately, the larger, broader, the other things, there was still opportunity for redemption. As I like to say, you could do something dishonorable today, and depending on what it was, I mean, you can't be like Darth Vader where you kill youngins and kids and shit. But you can you can be redeemed without having to kill Emperor Palpatine and get back. You can just get back in here and do some good legislating. But we as a country, we still, and I would say non-conservatives fall victim to this more of the perfect person. You know what I'm saying? Issue where it's like, no, everybody probably got something that if you really got into the weeds on them, it may not be like wrong necessarily, but it'd be kind of, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's an interesting choice that they made that time in their life. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, I mean, really being in community with people is playing that balancing game and that balancing scales of like who they are in totality, and then also though in the total sum of things, is it best to eject them from our world based on whatever transgressions they made, or is it better to have them let's have you stay around, maybe you a little bit more quiet for the next 2 years, you know what I'm saying, or you got to go do some work down at the community center, You know what I mean? And then you get to come and be more active, in the future. But the general idea that we have the privilege and the liberty, like, to just exit people, like, you know what I mean? Like, those people don't, when you kick people out, you put people on the island, they don't disappear. Like, they just go on the island.
Right.
Eventually they come back.
And then the question is, does that actually make them repent?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, does that actually help them get better? And does it actually, work on something that they had personally, which then also allows them to do the thing that you actually sent them for, which was to legislate? Now, that's not to say that it shouldn't be a high bar and of moral and what's the name standards, but those things change over time too, right? Like, they're just in different communities, people receive stuff differently. So yeah, I just think Democrats doing too much hand wringing years later in the nation and all kind of magazines are talking about, what if we wouldn't have did this 14 years ago? What if we wouldn't have, what if we wouldn't have sent the photographer to see Gary Hart? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. Y'all playing these what if games are too big for me, man. The Republicans don't do that. They make a mistake. They say we fucked up.
They be like, all right. They be like, yo, I got some chocolate ice cream though. They just change the subject. Right. It's like, yo, look over there though.
Yeah, they have somebody come home and be like, yeah, I blew the rent money, but I do got some ice cream. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Cool. And to go in the room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they show little penance. They show far too little hand wringing for their decisions, as we saw today. But yeah, man.
Word up. All right, well, I don't know. I don't really got much else to share on that. I think I would just say to everybody, go read the things. You watch the video at some point if you just want to be, just so you don't, in your mind, have not imprinted that what happened on January 6th was not as bad as it was. Just make sure.
It was still seditious.
Yeah, it was still absolutely
shit.
Like, because what'll happen? I mean, it's about 700. Like they said, it's like 200 cases in action that they're pursuing against different people.
Yeah.
And just for those that don't know how crime works and crime law enforcement works, typically if you get a federal case, you're in a bad spot because they don't tend to charge unless they got, what I'm saying? They got like the rock solid. They got you coming out, out the bathroom, stuffing the iPhone in your pocket. Kind of evidence, like, oh, look at him, that's you. Like, if you are a Boondocks fan, my name is Justice Rajee, my social security number is boo. You know what I'm saying? I am totally committing this offense type of evidence. Not always, but typically if you got a federal charge, you in a bad spot in terms of getting off of it. So now a lot of people are gonna probably get misdemeanors. You know what I'm saying? All of them ain't going to get, felonies or, higher charges. I don't even know, my deeper self is not necessarily think that that's always the remedy. However, in the present time, if, regular people that I know in our communities could get caught up in a situation and they could face 10, 15 years, then people need to go sit down. Until we change everything else, they need to go sit down too. You know what I'm saying? Because they out here pursuing all kinds of complicated cases against regular people who may did something wrong, but maybe not as wrong as it looks like. You know what I'm saying? And these people were clearly involved in a seditious act, and they should, have some time to think about that. And, like the one lady said, I was duped. I feel really embarrassed about everything I did. Oh, word? You feel embarrassed? Man, don't tell me. Too bad, though.
Tell it to the
judge. To the judge, Mom.
To the judge.
So that's all I got.
Got it. So one thing, just I was thinking about, as we all can't go nowhere, but I will say, shouts out to all the people who never thought they would ever go to Puerto Rico, but have been to Puerto Rico in the last 6 months. Right. I see so many people being like, "I want to go somewhere.
Right.
I think I'll go to Puerto Rico. It's an island." But I don't have to leave America.
Yeah,
it's been an island that you didn't have to leave America. And guess what? It was always nice.
Right.
The pandemic, you didn't need the pandemic to tell you that Puerto Rico was actually somewhere in America that you could go and it actually would be nice and with palm trees and stuff. But shouts out to everybody in PR right now. PR is the new Dominican Republic. It's the new Dominican Republic, the new New Mexico, New Cancun, because they didn't ruin Miami. So I guess they said we got to go somewhere else. But here's the funny thing about this, right? You never hear people being like, you know where I'm going to go? Naples, Florida.
Right.
You know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to Kissimmee, St. Pete. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like the places you see on the travel commercials, like late at night. You know what I mean? Like the places that you don't, like you take your family to go. Right. Like you don't, and in no way think you're going to have like a men's trip or a woman's trip. Yeah, like you be like, okay, we're gonna take the family. We're gonna go to Kissimmee, St. Pete.
They go to water. Was it Splash USA Splash? I don't even know the name of it no more. The water park.
Yeah,
go to the water park. You know what I'm saying? Go to Busch Gardens. You know what
that's what I'm saying. Like you don't even see that. People just like, they said, man, forget Florida if it ain't Miami or Fort Lauderdale. So, but in that idea, and looking at all different places all across the world that are still having these challenges, especially with the variants, and I think time will tell the kind of impact of the variants and what it'll mean. As it stands, the Britain variant, the South African variant, you know what I mean? So I just really thought about like when when the world opens up and we can travel, just like what were the impactful travel experiences that you've had, right? And it doesn't have to be like 1, 2, and 3, but I just was thinking about, one, how important travel is, especially for like young Black and brown boys and girls. Mm-hmm. Especially, and all of us, again, clearly all of us don't live in the ghetto, as they said on Good Times. So I ain't trying to press it like all of us live like in these abject poverty, in these abject impoverished conditions. But I do think sometimes it's just, America does a really good job of framing itself as like God bless America and no one else, like type thing, right? Mm-hmm. So just thinking about travel and thinking about the three ones that I was just thinking about, and then I'd ask you yours. So I'll share mine. And again, this is not in any order. More for the unique experience that it presented to me, and how it kind of allowed me to be different and or kind of like better after that, if you will. And the first one, again, not in any order, but the first one was actually traveling to Canada. Mm-hmm. So as young men, we would go into Canada for a couple years. Was in a relationship up in Canada or whatever, right? And so, being in Pittsburgh is somewhere that's only 4 hours away from the border, right? Or 4.5, 4.5 hours away, but you're literally going to another country, right? Mm-hmm. So that's, there's not many places that you can say that. I know in the PDX you can say that too, but there's not many places in America you can say like you're 4 hours from another major metropolitan area, another global metropolitan area actually. And so that experience and the thing, and please, give me into your thoughts from our time there. But the biggest thing that I learned going to Toronto is that what it really means when you're American. Mm-hmm. Like, I think sometimes when you're not feeling like you benefit from America in its fullness, obviously because of white supremacy and racism and sexism, patriarchy, all, turbo capitalism, the whole bit. So you be thinking that you're so like not American, and then you go places, and this was the infamous one I remember, going into a store, and we were just like yelling in the store, yo, what you want? Give me a bag of chips. Do this. Yeah, give me a drink too. And I remember looking at the cashier, and she was like, what the fuck is going on
here? You people?
Why are they yelling? Why are you people? Why are you yelling?
They must be from the States.
What is such the problem that you're just yelling like this? What is wrong with y'all? And I just remember thinking like, damn, They don't yell. They don't yell in the corner stores up here. Okay, you know what I mean. All right, like yeah, like. And then another interesting thing that I hadn't seen. I mean, it's not distinctly a Canadian thing, but the whole idea of like, here's the dish. This is what you ordered. This is what you're eating. Mm. Because we're so used to the customer's right here. Right. That you go places and be like, so I want this meal that has peppers, eggplants, onions, mushrooms, but I don't want any peppers and eggplants and mushrooms. I want to sub this. Can you actually cook this medium rare? Because I don't like that, makes my stomach hurt. and at some point, it's like, you just don't like that thing. Hey,
order something else.
Order something else. Like, what are you doing to these people? And I remember they was like, no, we can't change the order. And I was like, but no, I just don't. They was like, we can't change the order. We just have to get something else.
Right. Like, I was like, we got some other things on the menu.
Right. Like, we got some other things on the menu. But so I just really, for me, coming from our experience in America and then engaging with, more of a global diaspora that you don't see in a lot of cities in America, New York, LA, maybe Chicago, maybe, you can debate certain cities, exceptions, just this idea of like that. And then the other part of that, and I'll stop here, is, the thing I coined with nigga imperialism, from Rhapsody, actually, interestingly enough, and the impact of Rhapsody on the Toronto and Hamilton hip hop scene, and then in a lot of good ways, but also a lot of stuff that folks were getting across the border in messages that they were not getting prior because they didn't have access to everything. They didn't have access to visuals.
Yeah.
Right. And ideas that started to spread not just into Canada, but globally about the Black experience in America, and how people often thought that you would be examples of that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I add on to that particular experience, especially that first time going up, because it was definitely like this is sort of a place that I know, but then it's totally not the place that I know.
Right.
Like it looks similar. The buildings are not too much different. You know what I'm saying? When you're driving like in the Hamilton, it doesn't look all that much different than if you were in Niagara on the U.S. side or
right.
Buffalo when you go to Buffalo. Right. You know what I'm saying? Not like terribly different. You know what I'm saying? Or something that looks akin to what you would expect. You know what I mean? But then it's like, people are a little different, and then there's other little aspects that are different, and then obviously, you go into the Chinese Guyanese spot with the roti and the you know what I'm saying, and fried rice, and you kind of go like, this is interesting. I don't totally know what to do with this information. Because according to my American experience, you don't exist, right? But you totally a person of mixed Chinese, probably African, you know what I'm saying, and whatever have you, of Guyana descent, who's now in a little shop in Hamilton. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, wait a minute, is this? You know what I'm saying? And my man, he was just living his life. He wasn't trying to impress nobody. He was just doing his thing. And that we was the weird. We was the oddballs. We was the ones that had never had to think about that this existed before, right? You know what I'm saying? Right, and so then it puts into like, wait a minute. So you trying to tell me does other people have immigrated to those countries and mixed in with the population? Hold up, man. Miss Johnson ain't Miss King, my third grade social studies teacher. She ain't never say nothing about none of that happening. You know what I'm saying? All I heard about immigrants was Ellis Island and Europeans. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't heard nothing about nobody leaving, you know what I'm saying, Eastern, somewhere in China to go be a farmer in South America, or Japan to be a farmer in South America, or going from one Caribbean island to another place. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole other dialogue about where people is moving to. And then these people all ended up in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
the environs, surrounding, Toronto, Hamilton,
Around. Yeah.
you know what I mean, what have you. And so some of the, and it definitely was too, I mean, although, the concepts that we understand as broadly Western racism still existed in Canada, it was not American racism. You know what I'm saying? It was not America. It was like it had its own things happening. You know, it had its own preset, own structures, its own, behaviors and the way it saw itself. And it's one of those things that then it just, and even that wasn't the one where we had the Bugle Corps experience with the mans at the border, was it? Or was that was the second trip? That was the second trip. Yeah. So we'll say that for another day. You know what I mean? I was in the Bugle Corps, and I wanted to laugh so hard when that man said that, but we'll say it again. We'll say that so you can get all the blow by blow, for the listeners. Word up. So I'll jump in with one for me. Okay. Then this is one of the ones that came to my mind when you shared it with me as an idea. So the all of the trips that I took working in the Pathways to Freedom program with the Rosa Raymond Park Institute for Self-Development, over 3 different summers, were super impactful for me. I mean, especially the first one, but all of them, because since we didn't go to the same places every time, but the first trip, I went to, it was really one of the first times that I spent, multiple days in the South in the form of Texas, you know what I'm saying? And then in Oklahoma, and then in Kansas, then in Kansas City. And then the next year, getting to Memphis, getting to Alabama, and then Mississippi, going to Florida, going to the Bahamas. And the next trip going to North Carolina, going back to Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this, before and then since, I've not had any trip where I spent that much time in not just the South, but also kind of the South to Midwest bridge of things, moving out of Detroit, and then also going into Canada. So going over to traveling to Toronto from Detroit. You know what I'm saying? That way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and seeing Windsor and seeing the farms of Ontario, going to a farm that was owned by a Black family that, that their history that they got to Canada, they escaped from slavery and started a farm in Ontario, and the family still owns this land. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was multiple trips, I was working with kids and teaching. Also for myself, it was like I got to see a lot more of the United States. You know what I'm saying? And a lot more territory. I mean, it was, some things that were not, necessarily exciting, like that, we all got all the same stores. You know what I'm saying? So as much as we may lament, the current thing where, in many ways, Amazon and then probably Walmart as a second dominates most people's thinking of where to buy something from. I was driving around in that bus in the summers of 99, 2000, 2001 going, man, every time we stop, it's a Best Buy, it's Walmart, it's Circuit City. It's like the same 12 stores over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Like these, and that much more of the country is something that we would describe as suburban to semi-urban. And then, rural, then is dense, the hard urban jungle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't that many places in aggregate, you know what I'm saying, that are this like wall to wall, urban experience that we speak to sometimes. And then also, I mean, like a lot of states, a lot of places are bigger than it looks on the map. Like driving across Tennessee takes a long time. Like going from the Smoky Mountains to Memphis is not a like, oh man, we just get in the car like 5 hours, we'd be there any minute. You know what I'm saying? That took all day on the bus. It was the whole day. We was riding. It was like, oh, where we at? Can we eat something? You know what I'm saying? Staying in a military barracks, going to a seatbelt factory on a reservation in Tupelo, Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? Where they made the weavers, the American community there that do weaving, and they make seatbelts. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, this, I didn't know nothing about this. You know what I mean? It is stuff that I'd like to get back to. You know what I mean? But it just showed me how much of like how America works that I didn't really know. Right. I didn't have firsthand experience. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's really good for people. I mean, it's big for Americans. I mean, it's good for us to get out of the country, and it's also to get out into more of the country that you live in. You know what I'm saying? And I know sometimes people are like, I don't want to go to them states and da. And I can dig it on certain levels. Like, I understand, like, especially if you ain't got a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I here? Like, I ain't telling you to go to El Paso just on a whim. Like, I need somewhere to kick it for the weekend, so I'm going to fly into El Paso and see what's cracking. Like, you might be disappointed. You know what I'm saying? From an entertainment perspective. But from a, all right, like, Fort Bliss, I think it was Fort Bliss. And you got like giant military base, and you got a lot of black soldiers, you know what I'm saying? And also, you know what I'm saying, Mexican soldiers. And I say Mexican specifically because sometimes folks, people may not know this. Sometimes you can join the U.S. Army as a pathway to citizenship. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot different times, and currently even the U.S. history with folks that don't have status, you know what I mean, or are trying to get, situated so they could be residents, will join the U.S. military. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen to join the U.S. military, in case y'all didn't know that. So, y'all can go look that up. It was like understanding the way to, because part of the ethos of the program too was around making sure folks who grew up, black folk kids that grew up in different parts of the country understood really how they're situated differently, but also similarly, you know what I'm saying, even if they, by traveling together. So it would be kids from the South, kids from the Bahamas, kids from Canada, kids from Detroit area. I was with kids from Pittsburgh, you know what I mean? And it was just very, every trip, you know what I'm saying, I learned a little something about myself. I learned that all y'all is liars when y'all start talking that dry heat nonsense. It's 116 degrees. There's nothing good about 116 degrees. Like, don't let these people lie to you. Maybe, it's 109, but it's a dry heat. Yo, it's like being in an oven, dog. It's not cool. Go in the house, man. Why am I outside right now? Giant grasshoppers. Oklahoma's jumping out the bushes, and I'm standing outside 111 degrees. I'm going back in the hotel. Like, this is ridiculous. So, these sorts of concepts, you know what I'm saying? But, people can give you a different story when you ain't seen nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like my old joke, like, you ain't never seen the ocean. You know what I'm saying? You out here trying to tell me about, you know what I mean, how I should approach this young lady at the club. Like, you ain't never seen the ocean, man. Like, settle down. Like, shh. You ain't been nowhere, man. Like, how you gonna tell me? So, and it's definitely something that, from a programmatic perspective, if it wasn't so damn expensive, I would be all on board to find a way to replicate at scale. But I have no idea how you could do that with like hundreds of kids every year, because it had to be stupid expensive. Like, I don't know how much expensive it was, but it had to be stupid. We was in buses, bus for 3 weeks, staying at hotels, staying at college campuses. I mean, the college campuses maybe was cheaper, but eating out, you know what I'm saying, like every meal, because you can't really feed a group of 36. You know what I'm saying? you can't let us pick up some hot dogs, some burgers, and franks, and get a grill, get a little hibachi, one of them little grills with the charcoal, and we'll make some burgers outside the side of the road. Like, you got to stop and get something to eat. You know what I'm saying? So, but the bigger thing was, it was really dope connecting dots and traveling, and then on those trips, like I said, we were studying, Black history and civil rights and this and that, and Native American history on 2 of the other trips. So, I mean, it was like moving through the land and then talking about, our people, as it were, more so than the primary American narrative. So it just made me much more comfortable, and it gave me a good understanding if I had to travel, which I later did drive cross country. But it also was like, all right, man, like, yeah, it's like driving through Missouri takes forever. I don't know why, but it takes forever. It felt like to get from Kansas City to St. Louis. You know what I mean? And city of St. Louis, someday I'm going to come there and like stay overnight. I've driven through the city of St. Louis like 5 times in my life. I've never had the pleasure to like stay overnight and kick it. I'm going to do it one day, though. So one love to y'all.
So we got to get me. I think we might have had it taped when me and Niles Devon's argument on is St. Louis, the South. We have a ongoing argument about the South, and there's this weird thing between the South and the Midwest, or the Midwest areas that have been so influential to the South and received and taking people from the South, and they're positioned a certain way in America. But the second place that I'll share is that was a really interesting for me was Utah. I guess in Park City, Utah, particularly, but then Utah just kind of crossed the board. And so, for anyone here that's listening and doesn't know me, I'm not an outside type of person. I like outside, but I don't like outside like that. Like some people like outside. Like outside is okay. You know what I mean? I have a more of a appreciation for outside now because of the pandemic. Number one, because you can't go nowhere, and then two, because for running, like you get an appreciation for outside. You gotta go outside because now I hate running inside. That sucks. The dead mill, the you know what I'm saying, the dread mill shit. But so so going to Utah, so you get to Utah, and then you have all these expectations, and some of the expectations you have of Utah are 1,000% real, and some of the precepts that people have about what Utah looks like in Mormonism is also kind of real, like the big grain elevators and the big grain things that they're holding for when the world ends. They're there, and they're full of grain. So just in case anyone ever thinks that that's not the case, like that's true. You know what I'm saying? There are huge grain containers full of grain for when the world ends, right? And they will have more grain than anybody else, I guarantee you. So if you're close to Utah, if the world ends, you might be in good shape for a minute. You can have bread forever. But then it's like, and the thing about Salt Lake City in particular is that, it's like totally like flat, right? Like there are places that are flat, and then there's Salt Lake City. Like it feels like you could look for it's flat like Vegas is flat.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like flat, and so you're in this flat town, but then in some ways it feels much like California, right? Like the street structure, every block seems like it's residential, industrial, and a business corridor at the same time, which is definitely something that once you go past like Kansas City or something, that like everything becomes that. Like, wait, this street got a gas station, a car repair place, a restaurant, and 4 houses. And nobody sees nothing going on here. Like it's just me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why is all next to each other? Maybe in the East Coast we got these like hotty-toddy zoning rules, which often didn't benefit our people. But like, so anyway, then you leave and go like into the mountains, right? And so we leave and go into the mountains, and the next thing you know, I'm in the mountains with like coyotes and shit. Man, I never forget. I'm in the jaw, and we're in the cabin, and they're like, "Listen, if you hear the howling, don't go outside. They're coyotes." What? Coyotes? Man, what are you like? What? Is this okay with all of y'all? It's coyotes outside that's close enough that you can be paranoid? I'm talking about, like, yo, dog. But one thing I learned from that experience, and even though it's a resort, it's also like, it's a resort, but at the same time, you're in the woods. Like, you are not by no city. Like, don't confuse it. You can go down to the Polo outlet if you want, but you can go have you a beer down by the Sundance look where everything is like, but, I actually gained another appreciation for outside that I didn't really have prior to going there, and have become much more interested in the idea of how Black folks engage the outside. Like, again, owing to like this very urban thing in the the identity of Black people being urban becoming dominant, which is not. It was. I mean, again, even to 60, 70 years ago, that wasn't the case, right? I mean, it was a shift, but wasn't like everybody was in cities. Right. There were still people going to cities. There were people in small places. There were rural folks. There were, you know what I mean? Like, so, and there were people in smaller cities, right? Like they weren't like big cities, but they were, so that was like a change. One interesting thing I'll share too, for any folks who like to drink whiskey, is an interesting thing. They got the High West Liquor Company out of Park City, Utah, one of some of the best whiskey, bourbons, different stuff. But it's an interesting thing. Like, for every drink they pour, they put the container on the joint, and it goes directly to the taxes. So, like, they pour a drink, and like you can only pour but so many drinks in a setting. So a lot of us are used to this idea that you could, if you was like, I want 8 shots of blankety blank, right? You could theoretically get it. It's horrible for you, but you could theoretically get it. In Utah, in Park City, if you want 8 shots, you don't get 8 shots. You get 2 shots. And the state of Utah has helped you with your temperance. Right. So you are going to have to go somewhere else if you want 2 more shots. Because the state of Utah has helped you with your challenge. But yeah, High West is a dope distillery. But I was, because again, when you're like in Pennsylvania, where it's like, there are no rules except the fact that you have a 1970s Soviet style idea of selling liquor. Right?
the only rule is you can't go buy a bottle of liquor after 7 o'clock on a Friday or whatever that damn time when you be like, wait, what time is it? Oh shit, we can't we gotta go to a bar.
And so I'll tell you, what's crazy is if you're in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, then you're really even more privileged because there are places now that are open till 10, and there are stores that are like, so like the wine and spirits, they created them to like be a higher end store.
All right.
And they close at 10. They close at 10, and they have like all the liquor you would be looking for. But that's only if you're in literally East Liberty, Pittsburgh, or downtown Philadelphia. The rest of them is still fundamentally, it's just they changed it, but it's still the state store, baby.
Nah, I just, I mean, not to reveal more than anybody needs to know about decisions that one may have made at different times in our life. But I recall some entertainment events that we were organizing, and we needed to run to get over there before they closed at 8 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Or we wasn't gonna have no spirits.
no high powered alcohol for our tubes. Yeah. No, so Park City was that for me.
So I was thinking about one, and I think I'm gonna go with this one, and I kind of muddle the year, but and it's not really like somewhere totally different, but the trip. Like the first trip we made, one of the first trips we made together, I think I want to say it was summer of '95. Because I thought we traveled to Pittsburgh, and then we traveled from Pittsburgh to New York. But in my brain, maybe it was '96. That's why, because it was in the summer of '96. It was after '95. All right. And that, we rode the bus, and I still don't totally actually know how I packed and carried all of the things that I brought on the trip in a duffel bag. Like we went to the Puerto Rico Day Parade. We was going up for the Snow Improve. We was out.
Yeah, I went to 106th Street
we was all
Festival.
over the place.
That's right.
We went to, I think we went and got some jeans, or I got some jeans downtown.
We did. We went down on Broadway.
We packed in. We went to sleep, but I feel like we didn't sleep that much. Like we packed in a ton of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Between like a Friday to the Sunday evening, and whenever and I still actually don't remember did we take the bus back to Philly and somebody picked us up? Is that what we did? I don't actually remember how the hell we got out of New York.
Yep.
Like,
it was.
You know what I'm saying? Going to Penn Station. And that trip, as a young man, I advocate for young men, especially. I mean, like, to get out of wherever you live, like, even if it's and see someplace else, and if you can see it, with the support of, staying, if you got a homie, a partner, somebody that's from there, you can stay with, but see it somewhat outside of the context of just like what you would do already. You know what I'm saying? Like, stay. I think that's when did we stay? Where did we stay in the Bronx with D?
Was D in the Bronx?
I think it was in the Bronx because we took the train back down from the Grand Concourse to somewhere.
Then he was in the Bronx. Yeah, he was in the Bronx that year because he was in the Bronx 95 next year. Shout out to DT too.
You know what I'm saying? Those are like things, if you like, to some people, if you describe what you're about to do, like, I'm gonna put my all my belongings in a duffel bag in a backpack. I'm gonna ride a bus, then I'm gonna get on a train. I'm gonna ride the subways up to 179th in the Grand Concourse. We're gonna walk over here. We're gonna put our stuff in. Then we're gonna go back on the train and like go back to the village or somewhere, wherever the hell we went. We're gonna eat falafels. We're gonna get pizza at Joe's.
Shout out to my moves. That's right, Joe's Pizza.
Saying? We're gonna go uptown. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do all these things. Like we didn't go like, we didn't go like I went to the tunnel. Like, we didn't do no glamorous, what I'm saying, activities. But we did see the city. We built with the guys. You know what I'm saying? We went everywhere you were supposed to go as a young person, and young vibes into coming up for the show and prove, and trying to pack in as much as you could pack in, you know what I'm saying, in a weekend. And mostly all, on your feet and subway. And honestly, literally, I think, I don't think between the tickets and the, Metro card or something else, I don't think I spent. I definitely bought some jeans I really couldn't afford in the broader context.
Yeah, they were nice too. They were very nice jeans.
I had a credit card, it all worked out. You know what I'm saying? AT&T, Universal, one love y'all. My credit rating is straight now. You know what I'm saying? My credit rating is straight right now. You know what I'm saying? No love to the dude that was calling Wake and Majestic up at our old apartment. You know what I'm saying? When I was at work. You know what I'm saying? No love to that guy. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but that trip was like, it was evidence that I could make a decision about something I wanted to go see and do, and just go do it. You know what I'm saying? And navigate all the things you have to navigate to move around on your own. Now maybe that ain't that complicated because it is in a country that I live in and a language that I speak. Granted, great. But it still, means something to go see, especially New York, one of our great American cities. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's still all kinds of stuff in New York. I still ain't been to the Schomburg since, at least not as an adult. Every time I go, something happens, and I never get to go up there and just spend the time and engage with that in a full way that you should. There's things to go and to see and to understand, and not just have this theoretical, because you can, especially people that ain't from. People, when they speak on East Coast cities, especially, and they're not from those cities, it's dirty there. They're doing all that stuff. And I ain't saying that it's clean or it's not clean, but there's bigger fish to fry than whether or not New York is dirty or clean. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other stuff to see. You know what I'm saying? I think that's I don't know if that's the one where we went to Royal Canadian and Niles got them big ass pancakes. They immediately regretted that shit. And I loved them to death.
Yeah, that was. And them potatoes and that Royal Canadian Pancake House, them big ass potatoes. Yo, until you just said that, I totally had forgot about Royal Canadian and them big ass pancakes. There's so much food on that plate, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's too much. Like, who makes food this way? You know what I'm saying? But it was, it was a trip that, in terms of, what would follow that in terms of our own, basically finding a way to travel and get around and do it, sometimes at, under $200, you know what I'm saying? Like, make a move, go see someplace else, you know what I'm saying? And have an experience. It gave me the confidence, you know what I'm saying? And showed me like, more or less, if I could jump on a bus, if I could jump on some modus of transport and get there, I can go, you know what I mean, scuff my boots in your city. You know what I'm saying? And I, so I always remember that trip fondly. So that's number 2 for me.
No, and so the last one for me in this context is an interesting one. It's Geneva, Switzerland. And the thing about Geneva that was unique was like, so it's from an American context, the head of the United Nations is sent to New York City. So a global city. I mean, you could argue top 5 global cities in America, in the world, right? Which is, to your point, sometimes what we forget about New York City. Like New York City has like 6, I think either 5 or 6 Chinatowns. Right? Like it literally has 5 or 6 Chinatowns. Like, again, but when you don't get out of Manhattan, you don't know that Queens has 2 or 3 Chinatowns. That Brooklyn has a Chinatown, right? So our understanding of New York, sometimes we can neglect the fact it is a global capital. And so also we have DC, right, which is our country seat. And so DC is like this really interesting place with a whole bunch of brutal architecture. No poor white people, which also makes DC unique.
Yeah.
DC is one of the only cities in America. If I actually think it might be the only city in America that doesn't have poor white people.
Yeah. I ain't never seen no poor white people.
You've never seen poor white people? No, I mean they moved out. They all moved out of Anacostia. They moved them to Prince George's County and Montgomery County in the 50s to make way for black folks coming from the South to Anacostia. And so they all moved and they disappeared. They took advantage of racial privilege, and now they're not poor anymore. Yeah. Right? And so we don't think, again, if you juxtapose DC and Baltimore has a not insignificant number of working class white folks still in South Baltimore to this day. By the docks and everything. So Wire season 2. For our Wire fans. But so anyway, so Geneva, Switzerland, when you think of it like, oh, this is where the UN is, it has none of that character. Like it is like a movie set, if that makes sense. It is like literally a place that only exists to suffice the United Nations. Because it's not even like the biggest city in Switzerland.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't even have like, and I think sometimes because we hear about it so much, we think it's like the biggest city in Switzerland, but it's not, right? So I think Bern might be bigger than Geneva, but Zurich is definitely. So, okay, Zurich. Zurich is twice the size of Geneva. Geneva only has 200,000 people. But like I said, when you're there, you're like, this is something totally structured for like the United Nations. So it has all this character, but no character. And that's not disrespectful to anybody from Geneva that's listening. But like, it's totally, but so it's like this place that has all this beauty, beautiful views, but like, it's definitely very French. It's like French, German, and Italian at the same time. And I think that's also a big thing that American cities don't have, except if you're on the South or Southwest, which I think is important for people to think about. Cities that are totally influenced by other places, right? The closest we have is like Miami, right? Which is essentially like the northernmost South American place, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what Miami is. And then you have places like Houston and Phoenix, right? And to a degree, Los Angeles. But Geneva is different because it's like, it's Swiss, but at the same time, it's very French. Because that's a spoken language, right? Then at the same time, it's Italian because of the culture and even the proximity of Milan, right? But then it's German in how it works. German / Swiss, right? So when we think about like, okay, like the Swiss, things are on time. Yeah, that's kind of like the German influence. Because the Italians ain't nothing on time, but the French ain't nothing on time. You know what I'm saying? They have this most complicated joke there to talk about how people see themselves in Switzerland, but like that's not how they see themselves. Like they see themselves as like lovers, like the Italian, cooks like the French. You know, they're the mechanics like the Germans, but then people are like, yeah, their food's like the English. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're late like the Italians. So it was a unique place to me because I had to adjust even from having just been abroad, but abroad in a city like much like New York versus this kind of unique place where it's like people speak English because again, the UN is there.
Right,
you see what I'm saying? So like that's why, but it's kind of like a French place. So I had to kind of learn to engage with the French, but at the same time, you could go get really good pizza. It was really beguiling. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going back, but like, so don't get none of what I said here messed up. But again, I think to the point of talking about Toronto and just some of these other things, we can often forget when places aren't like just one thing. Where I think the American experience is like everyone's come to America, but you're American, right? Versus cities like Miami, cities like LA, cities like San Francisco, right? Where the influence is so large that it's like, yeah, this place is this, but it's also kind of like this, right? Like San Francisco's kind of like the westernmost Asian place. Like you said, Miami's kind of like the northernmost South American metropolis, right? Geneva felt like all of that wrapped in something, and then you had to engage it. So that's
it because I definitely think like I would like to go to. I've never been to the EU and Europe. You know what I'm saying? I ain't been across the pond. You know what I'm saying? And the global pandemic trying to put a black eye in the game. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't gonna let them put a black eye in the game. You know what I mean? As soon as we put this thing together, man, we coming. You know what I'm saying? We out here. Shine my shoes and all that. We got some fish and chips. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully it tastes good. We'll see. You know what I mean? But the idea of like what is happening in European cities, I think especially for most Americans, is sort of like, I don't know, it's like it's clouded by, these ideas of like, oh, it's like European nobles and Euro trash. Nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. You know what I'm saying? And like, depending on how you feel about the UN, you're like, the UN global network, they're trying to control America. Nah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but then it's like, well, I mean, it might be some cool stuff over there though. Like, it might be some things that are interesting. You know what I'm saying? It's a city, these are cities that have been cities for a long time. Same way, New York is a part of the United States, but, before it was under the other forms of government or, whatever have you that preceded the official existence of the United States. New York was still a place where people were gathering, you know what I'm saying? And maybe it would have been a city either way. You know what I'm saying? London is, been a city for like 2,000 years or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that, there's the same way if we think about a Cairo, you know what I'm saying? Or, various, even places like, what's the place in Italy?
Rome, Turin, Milan.
What's the name? Morocco. Yeah, I mean, like, different places in the world.
Yeah.
You got places that have been cities for like thousands of years. Right. So when you perceive it as something, like, well, what are they doing there? And it's like, well, it's obviously it's grown and it's in this modern age, but there might be things to learn there. So I'm trying to get in. I was looking at the map, where Geneva is situated, and I could definitely see where it's like, okay, yeah, this is probably why. I mean, even for Switzerland, like, I see why y'all would put it here, because it's like sort of in Switzerland, and then it's kind of not in Switzerland.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Corner pocket of Switzerland. So if you're the Swiss people, and if at any point you like, I don't really want to talk to them people in Geneva, we just close the highway. Like they stay.
No, I mean that is totally like the drinks were all. I was drinking all spritzers from Italy. Like you see what I'm saying? Like Negronis were the thing. Like it. That's what I'm saying. It was an interesting cultural like relationship of like, oh yeah, it's like in Geneva, like Switzerland, but then it's like, yo, you're right by France. You know what I mean? And at the same time, you're only 2-3 hours from Milan. You know, so it definitely is like a interesting culture. Whereas, like if you were talking about more like uh, Basel or Zurich, like those are much more traditionally like kind of European, deeper inside, like kind of closer to Germany. You know what I'm saying? Like that culture. So yeah, it definitely, you know, was like a thing of like if I would have been there longer, I just would have caught the train to Lyon, and you know what I'm saying, like, and did different stuff. So again, it's like this. America doesn't really have them because a lot of American cities were based on people like taking over and shit, right?
It was trading posts and they had an active investment in dispossessing the ideas of the prior existing society. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, I mean, we want to take the names of the indigenous communities, but we don't want to act like the people was here trading at this same spot. You know what I'm saying? We gotta obfuscate whatever role that world that actually was happening prior to, you know, America, as it were, United States, as it were, establishing itself. We have to make the past look like it wasn't really there, and then America existed.
Well, and the only place I'll say, to your point, Just, that I think does that to a very weird effect in America is New Orleans. Because New Orleans is like one of them places like you're there and it feels French, but you see the Spanish influence, obviously, you know, the indigenous influence, native influence, you see the African influence. And it's, you know, even that whole history of like, that's the French Quarter and that's the American Quarter. So everyone talks about the French Quarter, but they don't talk about the line between the French and the Americans. Mm-hmm. So the central business district of New Orleans is the American district. But we don't call it that anymore, right? Because if we did, I think it would bring to bear the complexities of New Orleans, right? So it's easier for us just to ignore that and just say, "Oh, that's the central business district." No, that's where Americans did trading, and they met at a line and did trading on what's the name street? What's the
I don't know. I've had
the street that goes all. Everybody
Bourbon?
wants to come down.
Okay, I wasn't sure it was Bourbon Street. I was just
so Bourbon. Yeah, no. So Bourbon. You know what I'm saying? It's like the border of that district, where it's like it was the balance of the trading post. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but again, a lot of people don't necessarily kind of like know that. So it's kind of like it's just easier to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's blankety blank. So, you know, just interesting canal, rather, pardon me. Not Bourbon, canal. Okay. Canal, you know what I'm saying, is the separation. And even if you look on a map to this day, it'll separate and it'll go right to the central business district versus calling it the American district versus the French Quarter. But again, that will give us complexities on how New Orleans developed. And I think sometimes we explicitly, by we meaning American history, explicitly tampers down the complexities of New Orleans. Like even the idea of the second generations of quote unquote slaves that came were walked down from Virginia. Mm-hmm. Like they weren't from New Orleans, because the folks that were in New Orleans, a lot of the Africans that were in New Orleans were free. Yeah. That first generation. It was that second generation that were walked in a reverse migration So anyway, not to get it because that actually just brings up the thing of how horrible of a job we do of telling American history for Black people.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean? But
and
Geneva,
also, well, and this actually kind of tie into the place I was going to share about. In many ways, the idea that when we think of even our existence as Black people, we will sometimes subscribe to the idea that we like bubbled out of the ether in a particular part of America. So, like if you're from Philly, you just bubbled out of the ether in Philly. If you're from North Carolina, you just bubbled out of like you didn't. There wasn't no. You know what I mean? But the bottom line is, anybody that's from the Delta, you probably have relatives that go back to Virginia. You know what I'm saying? If Black, you got you know what I mean, like not a change with the directions, and not everybody, but if you from any, like, it's more than likely if you can crack the veil, so to speak, you'll find that, like, oh snap, actually my great whatever great grandparent was moved from the Mid Atlantic to New Orleans in the early 1800s. You know what I'm saying? Or from somewhere in the Caribbean in the early 1800s to New Orleans and Louisiana, and then Texas, after that. So the place that I had the chance to go to, and this was young and around the same time frame as I was working for doing that summer work, was Martinique. And so Martinique is a Caribbean island. You know what I'm saying? It is a part of France, I believe. I don't totally remember if it's considered like a state of France. So it's basically, when you go to Martinique, you are in France as far as the world is concerned, or France is concerned. And the aspects that were impactful for me about that particular trip was, one, it was nice. It was December in 2002, and it was like cold, terrible. You were just describing certain conditions of Pittsburgh winter. It snowed 2 inches, then you get a break, and it snowed two more inches, and it's still cold, and then it's rain, sleet, and and you're just like, and then it was like, it's 80 degrees and the sun's out, and there's maybe cloud, but it's like a tropical island, and it's broadleaf plants, and they got this good fish, and then I went over here, and I was trying to order. They made we had some weird pizza at the place. Now I'm saying we stayed at a resort. We stayed it wasn't like I was in the gritty underbelly of the Fort de France. You know what I'm saying? But the thing landing was like the clear blackness of what was going, like it's not the Black people here. Like, these are Black people. Like, these are West Indian people. Like, they make sense of they part of the French state, whatever. But these are people that look more like people that I know than people that I don't know. But it was just like, we got to do a couple things. So they had one of, and I don't know if you remember, there was a couple art pieces made. I think it was during the Clinton. It wasn't. I don't know, Clinton was necessarily a part of it, but it was during the 90s. There was a monument built with statues looking back, would be west, east to Africa. One of those was it was in Martinique. And so there was a spot you go to, and like they had a thing, and like, I don't remember if the statues were submerged, or if they were on the thing, or there was something on the ground, and it was like there's these other things in the water. You know what I'm saying? And acknowledging that the people that are here, like, that history is a part of why these people of African descent are living here. But it was definitely, it is definitely one of the things that I've experienced when I've had these opportunities to travel places that are maybe fairly nice for whatever reason, and the Black and brown people there clearly recognize that, like, we don't see a lot of Black people, Americans, come to these places, so they first, I felt like they're sort of checking your temperature to see if you on one, basically, like, what I'm saying, like, you know what I'm saying? But if you mellow, they're like, oh, my man, let me put you down, like, let me show you where the stuff is at, let me, what I'm saying? So from getting out the plane, and the brother that drove us out to where we were staying, what I'm saying, hitting us with like a little bottle. I still kept the bottle. I actually got the bottle to this day. I think I finally drunk the little bit of liqueur that was in it, but a little local liqueur. He's like, my friend, drink, take this. And you have anything when you come to Martinique, blah, blah, blah. Now, he may have been laying the full tourist mojo on me, but like
Yeah.
I don't speak French, but and their father speaks French and sister speak French, so they hit them with a little bit of the French. You know what I'm saying? Let them know. You know what I'm saying? We could wheel a deal. You know what I mean? And it was like, they dug us. We had a good time. Homie drove us some other places too. You know what I'm saying? We went to it was like a restaurant one day. We went for a hike, like in the mountains on the volcano. And then we went to like a black owned restaurant in this valley, like banana trees and stuff. It was amazing. It was relaxing. You know what I'm saying? Like the people treated us well, and went to got some fish on the side of the road in the truck, and like the ocean was there, and it was black and brown people, black people who I would identify as black everywhere. It was just
right.
like I was like, all right, I could dig this. Like I can't speak French, so I definitely was a couple tips and turns. Like in Fort-de-France, there's a lot of the cruise ships land, right? So there's definitely there was certain elements where it's like, okay, I'm not going up that street. I really know what's going on up that street. You know what I mean? Like that's where people live and just trying to make it. And you don't need to be up there acting like I'm trying to meet the people. No, you go carry your ass back over to the duty free store. You know what I'm saying? But we did we had a drive stick, like the Ritter car was like a something equivalent to like a Yugo, and it had a stick shift, and we had to drive that joint all around the island. Had a good, it was a beautiful trip that I was, happy that I had, it was fortunate, to be able to participate. We went on a sailboat, with Fred, it was Fred's Navy at that time. So I'm not on the sailboat with Fred in the Caribbean, you know what I'm saying? Staying alive, you know what I'm saying? You got to go on the boat. You got to do that. That's just some relationship advice, folks. If if your partner has a father that likes to sail boats, you might have to get on the boat. Let them know, you know what I'm saying, that you ain't afraid to get on the boat. You know what I mean? And
right. So you create the relationship. I mean, I think that's, again, going back to this thing of why travel is so important for our people, so that we develop a global understanding, right? Part of it, I think, that you touched on is like, how do we develop a national understanding? Which meaning that black folks in America all got different histories, and we black and brown folks in the interplay, and we need to understand that, like almost like very similar to how people might assume that black folks in Florida were former slaves, and generally they weren't. They were from the Bahamas, right? Like Luke and all them, they're from the Bahamas. Yeah, Jamaican and Bahamian, right? So, but again, like you could have this idea, and to your point about you got family in the Delta, and this idea of New Orleans, and you think everybody was quote unquote down there. No, they were walked down there from Virginia, right? And so just that complexity, but then also what is the global complexity of blackness and the ways that blackness is engaged in different places. I'll finish here. For me, the day I was leaving Geneva, I was sitting in a courtyard, and just as an aside, that Nas album that sounded kind of weird in America, the one he did with Kanye, listen to it in Europe. Sounds much better. Like to me, it was like they did it to be in Europe, but it didn't make sense in America. But it doesn't make sense in Europe. And I was watching like the guys from Togo, like fly their flag and play the drums, and but then they had a barber shop with all the haircuts, and one of the haircuts they had was like Ludacris with all these parts in his hair, right? So it just made me realize there's like this global connectedness that sometimes we miss out on because our experience is presented as so central to the global experience that we miss everything else. And it's kind of tied to our dialogue about small acts, which I know we're going to get back to. But like, it's tied to like the only experience that matters is black people in New York City or black people in LA. Like, no, there's a global black experience that you kind of get tapped into. So whether that is Toronto, whether that's Martinique, whether that's Geneva, whether that's London, whether that's Accra, like, we should acknowledge that for what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to close the conversation. I mean, my other thing I would just add is one, when outside opens up, I want to get out. I want to go go visit people. I want to get across the waters. And also though, like there are a few things that can help you get better perspective on where you're at. In a better way than not being where you're at and having to be somewhere else. Like go somewhere else. and not, don't lie to yourself. Don't go there and be like say, I'm trying to learn, get the gritty. No, just go to the place, go to places that make sense, see what you can see, make connections, understand it, and then just take the best part. Like you don't have to go to Jamaica and then leave the resort and try to like hang out in the town and that might not be the best decision. You ain't got,
don't get hurt. Yeah,
but it's still okay to to visit places, you know what I mean? And then if your work or what you do, in one way or another professionally creates the opportunity to engage, and, nationally and then internationally, man, jump on that opportunity. Don't poo-poo, the importance of like going to that conference, and connecting with people that, in another city or whatever, or representing what you do in your city. You know what I mean? Because it will, to me, as I see it, may help you to learn something, to understand something better. And also, quite frankly, you might find out you've had enough, and it's time to move on. Like, hey, you know where I'm going? Someplace else. I love these people. I love y'all. High five. One love, peace, and streets. But I'm going to move now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may realize that you had other options. Than maybe how you may feel, where you're at. You know what I mean? So with that, anything else good in order? All right, so with that, I say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, Majestic. As always, you can support the show first by listening. Second, sharing with somebody, that you think would enjoy what we do here. And then third, by rating, subscribing. If you want to financially contribute to this work and making space for this work, you can become a patron on Patreon. Just search Ask Your Oldhead and you'll find a picture of me somewhere out there in the interwebs, and take it from there. Also, you can visit the Etsy shop, which needs a little refreshing, which will be coming in the spring. Purchase a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, the art, the culture, piece, and then add on to that. But most importantly, man, take whatever we talk about and find something of value for you that hopefully expands your understanding or helps you bridge to something that you have been trying to learn, or there's always the opportunity you can send something right back. Shoot us a message on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere. Just look for @Justice Rajee, @GoodBrothersPod on Instagram. But if you search Justice Rajee just about anywhere, you can shoot a message directly to me. In the show notes, there's a message number, so you can feel free, call and leave a verbal message. You know what I'm saying? We can hear your voice. In any event, man, stay safe, and don't take any wooden nickels. With that, I say peace.